Hey guys, it's PhoneArena. Today we're going to do a video comparison between the Apple iPad and the Motorola XOOM Android tablet. We know that Apple's going to be announcing the iPad 2 relatively shortly, but right now these two devices are available. You can pick them up at various locations, and we're just going to pit them up against one another, just tell you some of the features they have to offer, their performance, what we like and dislike about each tablet. And if you're in the market for a tablet right now, probably now is going to be a pretty good opportunity just because you have two really respectable offerings that really give a nice tablet experience. On the surface, the designs of both tablets are pretty much going to be identical to one another, and we honestly could say that neither one has a better looking design versus the other. That's just because they rely on the typical slate form factor, just basically a slab. You have, of course, the border around the touch screens. They're both very portable versus some laptops out there. They measure in 1/2 inch thickness, so very streamlined. There is a little bit more weight with the Motorola XOOM, but not drastically much difference versus the iPad, especially when you hold it with both hands. We do like their choice of materials too. They're pretty much premium, but with the XOOM, it utilizes this brushed metallic finish in the back. It has this matte feel to it. It does retain a little bit more dirt and debris and does take a little bit of time to get it looking clean versus the iPad, which would definitely like a little bit more with its brushed aluminum finish in the back. It just looks pristine all the time and does a better job repelling dirt and debris overall. But in the end, they're pretty much going to be the same. Not really one is more appealing than the other, just because they stick true to utilizing the same slate looks. As you can probably tell, the Motorola XOOM has a widescreen look to it. That's just because it relies on a 16:10 aspect ratio versus the iPad's 4:3 aspect ratio. Also, at the same time, the XOOM offers the larger display, 10.1-inch capacitive touchscreen, also the higher resolution, 1280 × 800 pixels, whereas the iPad resorts to using a 9.7-inch capacitive touchscreen, resolution of 1024 by 768. But honestly, even though that the XOOM has the higher resolution as far as numbers go, it doesn't really translate to anything more sharp looking. So even things like the icons and the text, as you can tell, very easy in the eyes to make out. They're pretty sharp looking. Neither one has a better advantage versus the other. But we do like the color production with the iPad's display. It just looks a little bit more brilliant. At the same time, when we set them both at their highest brightness setting, it just seems like the iPad just shines a little bit better than the XOOM. But they do offer pretty good viewing angles all around, so tilted left and right pretty much retains whatever's visible is on screen. They're also very responsive to the touch. We didn't have any problems as far as it registering our touches here. And finally, as far as just cleanliness, we have to add to the iPad just because you don't have to like really scrub it down, where on the XOOM, it does accumulate a little bit more and it does retain it a lot more than the iPad, so you really got to scrub hard to get it looking clean. Just like the iPhone, the dedicated power button on the iPad is located in the top right corner of the device. It's elevated, so it gives you a really nice distinguishable feel, and it's accompanied with a nice tactile response. Whereas on the XOOM, it's located on the back, which is baffling at first, but when you hold it in landscape, the normal way, your fingers tend to naturally gravitate toward it, and we do like its response as well. We actually prefer the volume rocker on the iPad just because it's easier to feel out with your finger and does offer that nice clicky feel to it. On the other hand, the XOOM, they're separated, they're a lot smaller too, and very difficult to press down. The speaker is found on the bottom right corner of the iPad, and it's all notches right here, where on the XOOM, it's located on the back and you have left and right speakers here, so it gives you that stereo sound. When it comes to the connectivity ports, the Motorola XOOM has a little bit more in its arsenal versus the iPad. Here at the bottom of the iPad, you have the 30-pin proprietary connection port. With the XOOM, you have a traditional micro USB port. You have also micro HDMI port there to connect it to a television set. They both have 3.5mm headset jacks located at the top edges of both devices here. But with the XOOM, it also features a front-facing 0.3 VGA camera, while on the back, you simply have a 5-megapixel autofocus camera, dual LED flash, so it does have the advantage of taking photos, videos, and even offering video chat as well. Unfortunately, you can't get access to the inside of the tablet, so if you need to get the battery replaced or something, you gotta send it in. As far as storage capacities, we know that the iPad's offered in different variants from 16 to 64 gigabytes. Of course, they're gonna range in pricing, where on the XOOM, you're only gifted with only 32 gigabytes of internal storage. It does, however, offer a micro SD card slot, so you could add another 32 gigabyte card to increase its to a total of 64. But right now, it's not yet supported with the platform, so once that's enabled, you'll get up to that. Additionally, with the Motorola XOOM, since it's on Verizon's network, it's going to be upgraded down the road to offer 4G LTE speeds with their network here, but that's going to require to have the modem installed down the road. But still, you have that flexibility of having faster data speeds. Right now, you have Wi-Fi connectivity and also 3G on Verizon's network. On the other hand, the iPad, you can get the model that has support for AT&T's network, so it's still pretty good offering, but it's not going to offer the blazing speeds once the XOOM is updated to 4G LTE. As mentioned already, we like the color production that the iPad's display is able to deliver versus the Motorola XOOM, which is going to show you some samples here to better indicate that. On the left, we have the samples with the iPad, and the right, the XOOM. We can tell in this first image here, if we zoom in, the red is a little bit more washed out looking on the XOOM versus the really nice, vibrant, brilliant looking colors of the iPad here. When you look at blacks, the silhouettes, there's a smoky look with it on the XOOM versus the really nice dark tones offered by with the iPad. The greens here at this, you could tell easily a little bit more faded with the XOOM, and it's a lot more prominent with the iPad. And this image here, bunch of different colors going on. You can tell the greens, the blues, the aquas, a lot more rich looking on the iPad. The XOOM offers a nice display, but just generally, it just looks a little bit more washed out. You can sense the smoky look to it. Still nice though, but the iPad definitely wins it. One of the impressive things that we like about the Motorola XOOM is that it's the first tablet on the market to feature a 1 GHz dual-core NVIDIA Tegra 2 processor. So whatever you're doing, when it comes down to just navigating across the platform, opening up different apps, multitasking, it just flies at a really nice rate. And there's very few instances when you find it lagging or slowing down. Conversely, on the iPad, it's running an Apple A4 processor, believed to be running at a clock speed of 1 GHz. It opens up applications with no problems at all. You could tell the smooth and fluid tendencies it has to offer, and you see that exhibited in various aspects of the platform. Now, between the two, you could tell there's a little bit more choppiness with the Motorola XOOM, but it's not that bad at all. But when compared to the iPad just moves at a nice fluid rate. But then again, it doesn't offer the graphical intensity that Android 3.0 Honeycomb has to offer. Of course, the ultimate issue comes down to which platform experience is going to be for you. So with the iPad, iOS, the XOOM, you have Android 3.0 Honeycomb. So the Android 3.0 Honeycomb experience is pretty top-notch just because it offers a lot more personalization between the two. With the iPad, the only thing that you're limited to as far as personalization goes is just the home screen. You pretty much just have either the lock screen and also the background wallpaper to change. You could also change the placement of the icons to any way you want. You could even group them to make different folders, but that's pretty much it as far as personalization go. With that, the Motorola XOOM wins it easily just because there's a mix of different things you could add on there, whether it be a bunch of different widgets, you have the app shortcuts, you can even enable things like different live wallpapers to give it a really nice alluring look to the platform, which is definitely appreciated, especially for those who wants to personalize their devices to their own unique look and taste. So what Android 3.0 Honeycomb has to offer is just a graphically intensive experience. There's a lot of different transition effects, as you can tell here, the live wallpapers and everything else. But with the iPad, it resorts to just sticking with simplicity. So it's a lot easier platform to learn. Anyone could pick it up and start using it. Where on the XOOM, it can become a little bit overwhelming for those who haven't necessarily used an Android device out there, just because there's a lot of different menus and stuff to get through. But all in all, it just depends on your taste. If you want a little bit more personalization, definitely go with the Motorola XOOM. But if you want to go with simplicity, then either way, stick with the iPad. Since there's plenty of room on both tablets, typing out messages is not too much of a problem. Right now we have the on-screen portrait keyboards up here, and as you can tell with the iPad, it's a little bit wider, and there is a little bit more travel required by your thumbs when you're holding the iPad with your hands. Generally in portrait, you use your thumbs to do most of the typing, but it's a little bit easier with the Motorola XOOM just because it's a little bit narrower, less travel required by your thumbs. We like the fact that it's very responsive to the touch, both of them actually. We didn't have any problems as far as speed typing. It just does take a little bit of an adjustment getting used to the keyboard here, but we like the iPad's autocorrect and predictive text functionality just seems to work a little bit better than what's offered on the Motorola Xoom. And of course, you have the landscape options here. A very, very spacious layout. You have nice sized buttons, very easy for you to type away. No problems again as far as responsiveness. You have the dedicated button here to get you into the numbers and also punctuations. But all in all, typing experience is pretty much going to be exactly the same on both devices. Now we're just going to quickly show you some of the core applications on both tablets and show you how they're optimized to work with the full length of the display here. So first up, we'll just quickly launch the calendar and just show you what it looks like. So at first, you're going to be greeted to the full calendar view, the month view. As you can tell, it takes advantage of the entire size of the display here. You could change both to a weekly view if you wanted. And of course, you have a daily view. And the neat thing about it is that it takes advantage of the space. You can tell here at the iPad's layout, you have your events on the left-hand side, your time intervals on the right, and a mini calendar on the top, which is nice. And with the Motorola Xoom, pretty much almost similar. You have a mini calendar. You have your time intervals here. If you want to add a new appointment, it's pretty simple. You just click just hold down somewhere on the calendar on the Xoom, and automatically will pop it up. With the iPad, hit the plus button, and of course you could put in a bunch of different information. So they work pretty much in tandem. They'll also sync with your accounts. In portrait, it looks like that the Motorola Xoom takes advantage of the added real estate with the address book, whereas on the Apple iPad, you could tell that there's a border on top and left, but we do like the actual address book that it employs, the interface. On the left-hand side of both, you have your contacts, and on the right, the pertinent information for each and every person on there. So if you tilt it to landscape, both devices will automatically adjust, and of course, you can treat it to a little bit richer experience, pretty much intact, but this time with the iPad, it takes full view of the display. There's no denying that the web browsing experience is going to be top-notch with both tablets just because of their fast processors. So you have features like double tap to zoom in. As you can tell from there, it's a little bit quicker with the Apple iPad. Still pretty good with the Xoom. They have kinetic scrolling, pretty smooth and rich, and they render pretty much everything on the fly. But there's just a little bit of choppy look with the Motorola Xoom, but it doesn't really take away from its great performance. You also have multi-touch gesture support, so you can zoom in, zoom out. It's pretty good on both devices. They both lack Flash 10.1 support, but the Motorola Xoom is going to get that down the road. So it's going to give you that really nice, rich web browsing experience. On top of that, the Xoom also has additional features like incognito mode, so it doesn't leave behind any cookies. And on top of that, it also will sync up with your Google Chrome bookmarks. So naturally, you're going to find the YouTube client on both devices, and between the two, we actually like the one on the Motorola Xoom Android 3.0 Honeycomb. Just offers a nice presentation to it. We have a carousel here, a nice graphical effect going on. If we go to our YouTube channel here, of course, it's going to show all the relative related items here on the right-hand side on both devices. If you play a video with the Motorola Xoom, it provides some additional related content on the right-hand side, and you also have access to the comments, the information right here. While with the iPad, you have it as a tab layout here. You can jump from between the tabs. It's nice, but we do like the option for going from regular quality on the Motorola Xoom to high quality at the instant of just clicking the button over 3G. While on the iPad, you have to be connected to Wi-Fi to get high quality videos, which is again just an advantage. And when the Motorola Xoom gets 4G LTE support, it's going to offer a little bit faster speeds, so you don't have to wait too long to get those videos loaded. Now we've got the gallery apps loaded on both devices, and as you can tell, as you load them up, it's laid out in a grid-like view, but with the Motorola Xoom, just because of its dual-core processor, it adds some nifty 3D effects. As you can tell, as I'm tilting it here, it kind of gives you that really nice 3D feel to it as you're moving it around, rotating it. So definitely a nice graphical touch right there. But as far as just looking at different photos here, let's just take a look. You have all the useful stuff that you usually find, but with the Android in general, there's just a lot more sharing functionality than what's offered on the iPad. You could upload photos to your Twitter, Facebook account, and at the same time, you could even do some editing, light editing with it, such as cropping or rotating, whereas on the iPad, you really can't do anything else except for just looking through your photos. So definitely the Motorola Xoom has an advantage in this area. Since it just launched, there aren't that many optimized Android apps available for the Motorola Xoom to take advantage of Honeycomb right now. In fact, if I click it right here on the Android market, this is all the available apps that are optimized for tablets on the Xoom, whereas on the Apple iPad, it's been around for almost a year now, so developers have really gotten a chance and opportunity to really fine-tune it. But we'll see more and more stuff come out for Android just because the SDK is now available to developers. We actually like the look and feel of the music player on the Motorola Xoom versus the iPad just because it offers a lot of graphical elements to its interface. Just like the gallery app, it tilts when you're just browsing through music, and it lays it out in a grid-like view for both devices here. So you have all the different albums. If you select something, it's going to give you the track listing, and then from there you can just simply play. Of course, if you minimize the displays, you can go back to the home screens. But when they're playing songs, it's pretty much the same set of information that's displayed. You have the album covers, track information, and even on-screen controls. But with the iPad, you're just limited to that. That's it. There's no cover flow mode, no nothing, just like what you see on the iPhone or iPods here. With the Motorola Xoom, we like its 3D carousel interface here. If you go to, I'll show you this real quick. Just go into new and recent, it just shows the 3D capabilities of the Motorola Xoom thanks to its dual-core processor, and just adds a really nice presentation to it. As far as the audio quality, they're both going to emit pretty strong tones. With the Xoom, it has a left and right speaker, so you get that stereo effect. But there isn't as much of a difference as far as quality. They're both very strong. A little more crackly, especially in the loudest volume setting with the Xoom, but both are still pleasant enough to hear. Watching video is going to be a great experience on either tablet just because they have plenty of real estate and they move at a nice frame rate. Keep in mind though, with the iPad, you got to make sure when you do convert videos over using iTunes that it fits the 4:3 aspect ratio of the iPad's display. Whereas on the Xoom, you're not too much of a problem just because it'll automatically adjust thanks to the widescreen format of its display. But as you can tell, it's pretty much very smooth as far as playing back videos and no problems whatsoever. So we should be able to bring it on with you on a trip and not have any problems with it. Granted that we like the straightforward approach of iOS on the iPad, it still doesn't really contend when you compare it to the personalized look of Android 3.0 Honeycomb, especially with all the useful widgets available to it, such as the one here for the Android market. It's very interactive. There's a bunch that do this actually. You have the YouTube one here, you have one for your ebook reader, and also one for your web browser to select the bookmarks. So it's a very interactive experience and just offers a little bit more convenience, especially for other applications. So you don't have to run a dedicated app. You could essentially get all the functions from the home screen. One great reason to pick the Motorola Xoom right now over the iPad is the fact that it offers camera, so you can take photos and videos, and it takes some exciting looking shots actually. And of course, you also have video chat, which is something that you don't have available with the iPad. When it comes to battery life, both tablets offer a really respectable mark. The version of the iPad that we have here is the 16GB Wi-Fi only version, while the Motorola Xoom here is connected to Verizon's 3G network. But in just our testing and usage, it seems like they both put up really nice numbers. You'll obviously want to charge them before you go to bed every night, just because by the time you end your day, it's pretty much going to be a low battery, but still more than enough in getting you by a solid one day. So in the end, the biggest thing that's going to sway consumers to purchase one tablet or the other is going to be pricing, obviously. With the Motorola Xoom, there's only one offering right now, which is the 32GB 3G model available through Verizon Wireless. It's priced at a hefty $800, no contract, but you do get a rich set of features right now. You have all the connectivity options with the HDMI connection port, so you connect it to your television set to have that same experience on the big screen. You also have the functionality for video chat. Also takes photos and videos thanks to its 5-megapixel camera, dual LED flash. It has a dual-core processor with the Tegra 2 chipset, which is nice. It makes everything that you do on the tablet really quick and fast. And it offers all the rich, engaging features found with the Android 3.0 Honeycomb experience, which is very much starting to build. Right now, there aren't that many tablet-optimized apps, but down the road, we'll nonetheless see them become more prevalent as more developers go on board. But if you want to save some money, you might want to look at the Apple iPad, especially the 16GB Wi-Fi edition. Starts at only $500. The similar pricing to the Zoom is going to be the 32GB 3G model, which is also $730. So it is less than the $800 cost of the Motorola Zoom. But again, you miss out on features like video chat, taking photos, all the rich multimedia aspects of it. But the thing that we like about the iPad is the fact that it is a very simple and straightforward user interface. It runs very smoothly, intuitive all around, and it has a growing list of tablet-optimized apps available to it right now. So if you're looking to get something that's relatively not going to cost you too much, definitely check out the iPad just because it offers a stellar performance. But if you're more of a power user and want to get a rich set of features or a personalized look, you might want to think about getting the Motorola Zoom. So if you'd like to learn more about either devices or for all latest cell phone reviews, news, specs, and information, you can check us out at PhoneArena.com.